Welcome to our special 5-episode series on Cluster B personality disorders and misconceptions. Over the next 5 episodes, we will be diving deep into some of the most misunderstood and often stigmatized mental health conditions. To reduce stigma and focus on the core aspects of these disorders, we've chosen to use alternative names in the order of most damaging to least damaging in relationships and for the person's self. So the first one is Impulsive Disregard Disorder, or IDD, for Antisocial Personality Disorder. The second is Extreme Self-Focused Disorder, or ESFD, for Narcissistic Personality Disorder. The third is Emotional Intensity Disorder, or EID, for Borderline Personality Disorder. And finally, the fourth, Dramatic Attention-Seeking Disorder, or DASD, for Histrionic Personality Disorder. We've chosen these names to highlight the key characteristics of each disorder while avoiding potentially triggering or overly clinical language. Our aim is to make these complex topics more accessible and less stigmatizing for our listeners. These disorders represent complex patterns of behavior and inner experiences that significantly differ from cultural expectations. They often involve difficulties with interpersonal relationships, impulse control, emotional regulation, and self-image. We've ordered our discussion from what's often considered the most externally disruptive to the most internally tumultuous. This progression allows us to explore how these disorders can impact both society and the individuals themselves. It's crucial to understand that people with these disorders face significant challenges in many aspects of life. They often struggle with forming lasting, real relationships, maintaining stable employment, and finding personal fulfillment. However, it's equally important to recognize that with proper treatment and support, many individuals can learn to manage their symptoms and lead fulfilling lives if they are willing to put in the, for them, Herculean amount of effort it takes to get there, that many of us simply take for granted as being quote-unquote normal. Our goal is not to judge or stigmatize, but to foster understanding and encourage compassion. By exploring these disorders, we hope to highlight the importance of mental health awareness and professional support for those affected. The 5th episode will discuss the traits that are present among all 4 of the Cluster B personality disorders, and the differences in motivation, or the why, behind why they do the same things. These episodes are crucial in today's world, where mental health awareness is growing, but misconceptions abound. Social media, especially platforms like TikTok and pop psychology, have led to increased discussion about these disorders, but often with completely inaccurate information. We'll be addressing 50 common misconceptions for each disorder, helping to separate fact from complete bullshit and quite often projection. Understanding these conditions is more important than ever as we navigate an increasingly complex social landscape, both online and offline. It's vital that we approach these topics with empathy, knowledge, and nuance. Whether you're a mental health professional, someone who knows a person with one of these disorders, a person with one of these disorders, or just curious about psychology, these episodes will provide valuable insight. Our goal is to, again, reduce stigma, promote understanding, squash oversimplified armchair psychologist bullshit, squash justification for bad behavior, hold up a mirror, and encourage professional help seeking when needed. Remember, while knowledge is power, only trained professionals can diagnose and treat these conditions. Join us as we embark on this enlightening journey through the complexities of Cluster B personality disorders. Let's challenge our assumptions and deepen our understanding together. Welcome to our first podcast episode in this 5-part series. Today, we're discussing 50 misconceptions around a complex personality disorder that's often misunderstood. While the clinical term is Antisocial Personality Disorder, or ASPD, we recognize that this term can be triggering or overused. To avoid this, we'll be using the phrase Impulsive Disregard Disorder, or IDD, throughout our discussion, as this captures the core crux of what is really going on. It's crucial to note that we're not talking about people with occasional rule-breaking behavior or healthy levels of assertiveness. Instead, we're focusing on individuals with a pervasive pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others, impulsivity, and lack of remorse that significantly impacts their relationships, work, and daily life over an extended period. This disorder goes beyond mere rebelliousness or nonconformity. It's a clinically recognized condition that causes persistent difficulties in multiple areas of life. Throughout this podcast, when we use IDD or discuss individuals with impulsive disregard, we're referring specifically to those who meet the clinical criteria for what's formally known as ASPD. Our goal is to foster understanding and dispel misconceptions about this complex disorder. The diagnosis is based on a specific set of criteria, typically including 1. Failure to conform to social norms. Example, repeatedly engaging in acts that are grounds for arrest, such as destroying property or stealing. 2. Deceitfulness. Example, lying consistently, using aliases, or conning others for personal profit or pleasure. 3. Impulsivity or failure to plan ahead. Example, making significant life decisions on a whim without considering consequences. 4. Irritability and aggressiveness. Example, frequently getting into physical fights or assaults. 5. Reckless disregard for safety of self or others. Example, driving while intoxicated or engaging in dangerous sports without proper precautions. 6. Consistent irresponsibility. Example, repeatedly failing to sustain consistent work behavior or honor financial obligations. 7. Lack of remorse. Example, being indifferent to or rationalizing having hurt, mistreated, or stolen from others. Remember, everyone might show some of these behaviors sometimes. For it to be a disorder, these patterns need to happen a lot, in many different situations, and cause problems in the person's life. To meet the diagnostic criteria, an individual typically needs to exhibit at least 3 of these traits. However, it's crucial to understand that these traits must be 1. Pervasive, occurring across various situations and contexts. For example, Alex consistently disregards rules and others' rights, not just at work, but also in personal relationships, in public spaces, and even online. It's not just in one place or with one group of people, it's a pattern that shows up everywhere. 2. Persistent, stable over time, usually beginning before age 15 and continuing into adulthood. Example, Sam has been showing a pattern of deceit and aggression since childhood. It wasn't just a phase that lasted a few years. Now at 30, Sam still exhibits the same behaviors, showing no signs of change. 3. Problematic, causing significant distress or impairment in school, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. Example, Jamie's behavior is causing real problems. Jamie can't keep a job due to conflicts with coworkers and disregard for workplace rules. Relationships are unstable because of frequent lying and a lack of empathy. Jamie has had several legal issues due to recklessness and impulsive actions. These issues are making life much harder than it needs to be, affecting work, relationships, and personal freedom. It's important to stress that only a qualified mental health professional can diagnose what we are calling IDD. This process often involves multiple sessions and may include structured interviews, psychological testing, and gathering information from various sources, including legal records. A thorough assessment is necessary because these traits can sometimes be confused with other conditions or may be temporary responses to specific life situations. Moreover, a diagnosis is not made lightly or quickly. It requires observing patterns of behavior over time and across different contexts. Self-diagnosis or labeling others based on limited information can be misleading and potentially harmful. If you're concerned about yourself or someone else, the best course of action is to seek help from a mental health professional who can provide a comprehensive evaluation and, if necessary, recommend appropriate treatment options. Remember, IDD is the term we're using to describe what's clinically known as Antisocial Personality Disorder, or ASPD. Let's dive into the misconceptions. Misconception 1. all individuals with IDD are violent criminals. Reality. While some may engage in criminal behavior, not all do. Many may never commit violent acts. Misconception 2. People with IDD don't have any emotions. Reality. They can experience emotions, but may have difficulty expressing them or feeling empathy. Misconception 3. IDD is just extreme rebelliousness. Reality. It's a complex disorder involving patterns of thinking and behavior that go beyond simple rebellion. Misconception 4. Those with IDD can't form any relationships. Reality. They can form relationships, though these are often unstable and may be manipulative. Misconception 5. IDD is untreatable. Reality. While challenging, some therapies and interventions can help manage symptoms and behavior. Misconception 6. All charismatic, successful people have IDD. Reality. Charisma and success don't equate to having this disorder. Misconception 7. People with IDD never feel guilt or remorse. Reality. Some may experience these emotions, though often to a lesser degree than others. Misconception 8. IDD is always obvious and easy to identify. Reality. Some individuals may be quite adept at hiding their tendencies in certain contexts. Misconception 9. IDD is just a label for difficult people. Reality. It's a clinically recognized disorder with specific diagnostic criteria. Misconception 10. If you're worried you might have IDD, you probably don't. Reality. Self-reflection can occur in individuals with IDD, although it's less common. Misconception 11. People with IDD are always loners. Reality. Some may be quite social, using charm and manipulation in their interactions. Misconception 12. Online tests can accurately diagnose IDD. Reality. Only a qualified mental health professional can diagnose this disorder. Misconception 13. People with IDD can't be victims of abuse. Reality. They can experience abuse, though their responses may differ from others. Misconception 14. IDD is caused solely by a traumatic childhood. Reality. While environmental factors play a role, genetic and neurological factors are also involved. Misconception 15. All children of individuals with IDD will develop the disorder. Reality. While there is a higher risk, many don't develop IDD. Misconception 17. People with IDD are always intelligent and cunning. Reality. IDD can occur across all levels of intelligence. Misconception 17. IDD is just a modern or millennial problem. Reality. It has been recognized in psychology for decades and isn't limited to any generation. Misconception 18. Those with IDD never experience fear or anxiety. Reality. They can experience these emotions, though they may express them differently. Misconception 19. People with IDD can't hold down jobs. Reality. Some can be very successful in their careers, especially in fields that reward risk-taking. Misconception 20. IDD is the same as psychopathy. Reality. While there's overlap, these are distinct concepts in psychology. Misconception 21. You can fix someone with IDD through love and understanding. Reality. Professional treatment is required. Love alone isn't a cure. Misconception 22. People with IDD don't care about anything or anyone. Reality. They may have things or people they value, even if they express it differently. Misconception 23. IDD only affects men. Reality. While more commonly diagnosed in men, it can affect people of any gender or sex. Misconception 24. All people with substance abuse issues have IDD. Reality. While substance abuse can co-occur with IDD, not all individuals with addiction have this disorder. Misconception 25. People with IDD can't feel pain or fear consequences. Reality. They can feel physical pain and may understand consequences, even if they often disregard them. Misconception 26. IDD is easily recognizable in children. Reality. While early signs may exist, diagnosis typically isn't made until adulthood. Misconception 27. All individuals with IDD have a history of animal cruelty. Reality. While this can be a warning sign, not all engage in this behavior. Misconception 28. People with IDD can't form any emotional attachments. Reality. They can form attachments, though these may be different from typical emotional bonds. Misconception 29. IDD is just extreme selfishness. Reality. While self-interest is a component, it's a complex disorder involving patterns of thinking and behavior. Misconception 30. All people with IDD are pathological liars. Reality. While deceit is common, not all engage in constant or pathological lying. Misconception 31. People with IDD can't function in society at all. Reality. Many can adapt and function in society, although they may struggle in certain areas. Misconception 32. IDD is solely a result of poor parenting. Reality. While environmental factors play a role, genetic and neurological factors are also significant. Misconception 33. All individuals with IDD are adrenaline junkies. Reality. While some may engage in risky behaviors, not all seek constant excitement. Misconception 34. People with IDD can't feel love. Reality. They can experience forms of attachment, though it may differ from typical expressions of love. Misconception 35. IDD always leads to a life of crime. Reality. While there's a higher risk of criminal behavior, not all engage in illegal activities. Misconception 36. Those with IDD can't be creative or artistic. Reality. Some individuals with IDD can be highly creative and succeed in artistic fields. Misconception 37. People with IDD are always confident and never insecure. Reality. They can experience insecurity, although they may hide it or react to it differently. Misconception 38. IDD is just a phase that people grow out of. Reality. Without treatment, it tends to be a persistent, long-term condition. Misconception 39. All individuals with IDD had abusive childhoods. Reality. While childhood trauma can be a factor, not all experienced abuse. Misconception 40. People with IDD can't be successful entrepreneurs. Reality. Some traits associated with IDD, like risk-taking, can contribute to entrepreneurial success. Misconception 41. IDD is the same as having anger management issues. Reality. While aggression can be a symptom, IDD involves a broader pattern of disregard for others' rights. Misconception 42. Those with IDD never feel guilty about their actions. Reality. Some may experience guilt, although often to a lesser degree than others. Misconception 43. People with IDD can't form long-term relationships. Reality. While challenging, some can maintain long-term relationships, especially if they benefit from them. Misconception 44. IDD is easily cured with medication. Reality. While medication can help manage some symptoms, there's no simple cure for IDD or any of the personality disorders that are labeled under Cluster B. Misconception 45. All people with IDD have a high IQ. Reality. IDD can occur across all levels of intelligence. Misconception 46. Those with IDD can't be loyal to anyone or anything. Reality. Some may form strong loyalties, particularly if it aligns with their interests. Misconception 47. People with IDD don't have a conscience. Reality. The concept of conscience in IDD is complex and can vary among individuals. Misconception 48. IDD is just an excuse for bad behavior. Reality. It's a clinically recognized disorder, not a justification for actions. Misconception 49. All individuals with IDD enjoy manipulating others. Reality. While manipulation is common, not all find pleasure in it. For some, it's a learned survival strategy. Misconception 50. People with IDD can't change or improve their behavior. Reality. With appropriate treatment and motivation, some individuals can learn to manage their symptoms and behaviors better. Remember, IDD is a complex disorder that requires professional diagnosis and treatment. These misconceptions highlight why it's crucial to avoid casual labeling and seek expert help when dealing with suspected IDD in oneself or others. And that wraps up our episode on misconceptions about what we've called Impulsive Disregard Disorder, which is again ASPD, Antisocial Personality Disorder. We hope this information has helped shed light on the complexities of this condition and dispelled some common myths. But our exploration of personality disorders doesn't stop here. In upcoming episodes, we'll be diving into misconceptions around the other Cluster B personality disorders. The second episode will include Extreme Self-Focused Disorder, or ESFD. This is what we've called Narcissistic Personality Disorder. We'll explore the nuances of this complex condition, often misunderstood as simply extreme selfishness. The third episode will deal with Emotional Intensity Disorder, or EID. This is how we'll refer to borderline personality disorder. We'll delve into the myths surrounding this often stigmatized condition, exploring its complexities and challenges. The fourth episode will be about Dramatic Attention-Seeking Disorder, or DASD, our term for Histrionic Personality Disorder. We'll unpack the misconception around what's often labeled as purely attention-seeking behavior. Each of these disorders is unique and complex, often misunderstood by the general public. Our goal is to provide accurate information, promote understanding, and reduce stigma. Remember, while it's important to be informed, only mental health professionals can diagnose these conditions. If you are concerned about yourself or a loved one, please seek professional help. Join us next time as we continue our journey through the intricacies of these personality disorders. Until then, stay curious and compassionate.